Shalom everyone from Israel. I'm Orly Froman, Maccabi World Union Deputy Chair and Co-Chair Maccabi Women's Forum. On behalf of Maccabi World Union, the Maccabi World Women's Forum, and the Maccabiya community, we are honored to welcome you, Sheryl Sandberg, to this special conversation of members of Maccabi around the world. A heartfelt thanks to you, dear Donna Orender, for leading this important interview. To all of you, we are deeply grateful for your participation, which we see as a powerful gesture of solidarity with the people of Israel during these difficult times since October 7, 2023. Maccabi World Union is the largest and first Zionist Jewish sports movement in the world, with 450,000 members across 80 countries. Our mission is to strengthen the Jewish people in the diaspora, emphasizing the links to Israel. The Maccabiya Games, Maccabi World Union's flagship event, are known as Jewish Olympics Games, held in Israel every 4 years. More than ever is our slogan for the upcoming Maccabiya on this July 2026, inspired by current reality. The Maccabi Women's Forum was established 2.5 years ago by us, a group of passionate Israeli women dedicated to cultivating and advancing female leadership within our movement. The vision is to ensure women taking meaningful role in leadership and in decision-making forums. Today, we proudly have 45 women leaders representing thousands of women across Maccabi communities, with ongoing efforts to expand activities both in Israel and around the world. One of our significant projects brought us to connect with you, Sheryl Sandberg, through our mutual concern about the sexual terrorism inflicted upon women and men during and after the events of October 7, including documented attacks of women and men in the villages around Gaza, at the Nova Music Festival, and in captivity in Gaza. Sheryl has since led the deeply moving and vital documentary Screams Before Silence, which confronts these horrific crimes. As part of our media campaign, we proudly try to promote the film. Thank you, Sheryl, for your impactful work and partnership. Dear friends, your connection with us, your support, and the embrace we feel from you in so many ways give us strength and hope. We are proud of our brave defense forces, including many women in combat, pilots, navigators, and more, who are actively participating in the war efforts. Women experts in military strategy and in analysis of Iran and Arab world are contributing significantly to public dialogue and awareness. This is a moment to thank and salute all our heroes and heroines. We also join together in praying for the return of the 7 hostages' bodies still held in Gaza, the full recovery of the wounded, our deepest embrace to the bereaved families, and the safe return of all our defense forces. Amen.
Amen.
And now I am pleased to invite Deb Lichtenfeld, the representative of Maccabi Women's Forum in the United States, wishing all of us an inspiring and meaningful meeting. Deb, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Orly. I don't often get the chance to thank you publicly for all of your steady and steadfast leadership. So I want to take the opportunity now to do that. It's been so important and valuable during these uncertain times, and I'm so proud to be sharing this moment with you and with Sheryl and Donna and all the others who are on this call with us. So thank you so much for everything you do for the movement and for the state of Israel.
Thank you.
As Orly said, my name is Deb Lichtenfeld, and I'm an officer of the board of Maccabi USA and one of the chairs of the Maccabi Women's Forum here in the United States. I'm in the thriving Jewish metropolis of Burlington, Vermont. And I've, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Thank you to everyone for your flexibility and patience as we've had to reschedule this from June when we were dealing with the events of the war with Iran. And a lot has changed since then, and I just want to mark that I'm so thankful that we all have this collective time and space to actually have this conversation now, because back then we definitely didn't. I have some logistical things that I want to share. As you can see, we're not in webinar mode, we are in Zoom mode. So we ask that you please keep your microphone muted at all times. And we had asked for questions beforehand, so we've tried to do our best to incorporate those questions into the conversation that Donna and Sheryl are about to have. And if you have any burning questions at the end, we'll put up an email where you can send us your questions, and we'll do our best to get those answered. And we planned for about 45 minutes of discussion and a few closing remarks at the end. One of the things I love so much about Maccabi is truly how global it is, and Orly sort of referenced that with the Women's Forum. And because the chat is closed, I would have normally asked you to maybe put in where you're from, but I happen to know from the RSVPs that we're representing so many countries. So I just want to take a minute and list some of those. And apologies to our colleagues in Australia who hopefully are sound asleep and will watch the recording of this. But we couldn't find a time that worked exactly for everyone in the world. But we have people from Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, the US, Canada, Italy, Germany, Hungary, the UK, Sweden, Ukraine, the UAE, South Africa, and of course, Israel. So thank you for sharing this hour with us. For some, it's the coffee hour. For some, it's the dinner hour. But wherever you are, we're so glad that you came together with us. Before I turn it over to Donna and Sheryl, I'd like to say a few words about them both, and I'll let Donna more formally introduce Sheryl. I'm not going to read their bios. They're very impressive bios, so I suggest that you do read them if you get the chance. But I've had the opportunity to work closely with Donna on multiple projects, and what's really clear to me is her desire to lift those up around her. She's fiercely loyal to those she loves, whether it's been a minute that she's met you and loves you, or it's been decades. And she takes immense pleasure in the successes of those around her and actively works for you to be successful. And I've been the recipient of that, and I'm so appreciative. And I know there's so many on this call that feel the same. And she doesn't have to do that. Clearly, she and Sheryl can bask in their own successes, but they use their platforms and their influence to lift others up. And Donna has used her platform to work tirelessly for women and girls on and off the court. She continues to create opportunities for women to play and to work in sport, as evident by her new league, the Upshot League that she just founded and is commissioner of. And on top of that, Donna has always used her platform to advocate for the Jewish people and the state of Israel. She's a tireless fighter, and I honestly don't know where, Donna, you get the energy for what you do. If I even explained just the last 24 hours of what Donna's had to do, it would be crazy. I just know how lucky I am to be in your orbit and to call you a friend, and I know we're in for a treat with this conversation. And Sheryl, I don't know you personally, although I think many of us feel like we know you. We've also benefited from you using your platform in ways that make Jewish women in particular feel seen and heard and cared about. And I just want to thank you so much for that. I hope you know how impactful your advocacy has been on all of those who do know and love you and those who don't and love you. And I just want to say one more thing. I feel really strongly that the people that one surrounds themselves with says a lot about who they are as a person. And I've had the privilege of working with your team, Sheryl, over the last 18 months. And I just want to have a shout out to Katie and Brandon and Emma and everyone behind the scenes, because they're spectacular and they've been amazing to work with. So thank you to them. And thank you all for being here. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Donna.
Oh my gosh, this is really happening now. It's us.
Believe it.
Listen, it is so great that you are here. I am so great that for all of us to greet you with enthusiasm and smiles and happiness. This is a conversation, as we both know, long in coming. And while I can add more to your bio at this point in time, maybe we'll sprinkle it in as we go. I do want to say, just as the headline, you are a woman of so many talents and accomplishments, so much inspiration, motivation, right? So much on the ground making things happen. And now that you are out in the open, a fully declared Jew, we're going to talk about that a little bit, right? I mean, I saw what you said, and I love that. You said, I sit on the stage as a proud Zionist, a proud Jew, in a way I wouldn't have maybe 2 years ago. And so why don't we start there? And we will, work our way around. For those of you who don't know, I met Sheryl, I hope she remembers, it's nearly 20 years ago at the Fortune Most Powerful Women's Conference. At that point, Sheryl was like emerging as a titan of the industry. And actually, we talked about sports at that point in time. You always loved it, and we'll get to talk about that as well. But let's start now in this time of fraughtness, but so much better than we wanted to first have this conversation of where we are in terms of the Jewish world and where you are in terms of the Jewish world.
Julie Platt, who I think everyone knows, who has chaired Federation for so long and is a dear friend, called me a born-again Jew. And I know what she meant. I mean, I've always been pretty publicly affiliated with being Jewish. I've put Jewish kind of content out there, not on purpose. Probably most importantly, when my husband passed away, I wrote a post on our Sheloshim, his Sheloshim, my Sheloshim. I don't know what the right pronoun is there, but and so I've always had some kind of Jewish content. I've always been a proud Jew. But stepping out as a born-again Jew, what Julie meant was that it was really not October 7th, but October 8th, as so many people have said, that caused me to just be more public, fighting for what I really believe, which is how important Zionism is, how important our public support of Israel is, and how misunderstood I think Israel is as a country, and I think increasingly how we are fighting anti-Semitism in this generation in a way a lot of us never really expected to have to do. And so I think just a bigger percentage of what I do every day became about my Zionism, my identity as a Jewish woman, as a Jew. Much more of my philanthropy is going to Israel to really try to fight what I perceive of as an existential kind of crisis that Jews are having and Zionists are having around the world.
First of all, tell us a little bit about your background growing up. I think people would be interested to know that you were originally from the East Coast, now firmly roots planted on the West Coast, but a little bit about your upbringing.
I'm from Miami, and I grew up in an interesting home with Judaism. My parents were very active in the Soviet Jewry movement. So they were very passionate about Jewish survival and getting Jewish prisoners and also political prisoners and political dissidents and Jews out of what was then the Soviet Union, where they were persecuted and imprisoned if they tried to follow their faith. My home, we belonged to a Reformed synagogue and an Orthodox synagogue. We kept kosher. So I had we did Shabbat, I had a pretty, not observant. We weren't Shomer Shabbat, but we kept kosher in the house, type of, and Judaism was always very important to me. I think what changed for me is, for me, I thought anti-Semitism was the stories I was told from the past from my grandparents. And for me, I thought that Zionism, the state of Israel, was safe and protected. And, when I think about my political beliefs, I've only ever in my whole life supported anyone who's pro-choice. That was just personal to me. But it didn't really occur to me until recently to think about how are the candidates I'm supporting on Israel?
Yes.
And
Right.
that has become a very, very, very important part of what I believe. And obviously, we're getting together in the wake of a very concerning election in New York City. And we have to see what happens next for Jews in New York, for our people in our faith. So
I wasn't sure if I should bring that up, but I'm glad that you did.
yeah.
Because I want to say many of us have grown up thinking, how did everything happen? Like, how did the Holocaust even happen? Right? How did our belief systems begin to take root where so much hate could persist in a community, right? In a country, in a world. And yet, I think most of us now understand it. We're feeling that. And the election in New York certainly has us questioning. And yet, we always heard about the German Jews who said, it's not going to happen to me. Right? And we have this guy who's on record saying, this is how I think. I will not deny the global intifada. And we're still saying it's not going to be me. So how, and then people say, well, what do we do, right? How do we combine our efforts to do something that lets them know that what is acceptable and what isn't?
No, I think that's right. And I think what's happened for a lot of us, look, I think global support for Israel really matters. I mean, I think the Maccabee Games are going to be more important because we've already seen how Israelis are having trouble participating, in some of the basic things they should be able to participate, whether it's film festivals or sporting events. I think people are hiding behind, oh, it's a security risk. We can't have, an Israeli film presented here. And that's not true. And we really need to understand what's happening. But I think political support for Israel really matters. Like,
Yes.
really, really, really matters.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. No, go
No,
ahead,
go ahead.
please. No, Donna, you're supposed to ask the questions. Please go ahead.
No, I was going to agree with you. I was going to take you down that path even a little further, because it's interesting when I feel really kind of at a depth. We have lots of friends through Maccabia and the ambassadorial force, and they'll say, in America, and obviously our friends in Australia have issues, and I love one of the reasons I love our Maccabi Women's World Forum is we gather and you hear from women on the ground actually what's happening. What are they experiencing in terms of anti-Semitism? But then what are they doing to lift up Israel and their Jewish neighbors and beyond that? Because you know what? We need an army of, we're such a small people. But I'm going to bring that back to you, Sheryl, because at some point, right, October 7th happened, and you decided that you were going to go to Israel when no one else would go. And you were going to document a story that people still find hard to talk about. And I think, you know what? I think that's a role model for all of us, but I think we'd like to learn specifically what got you there. And then once you were there, what was so startling to you?
Well, the path to the documentary is really about noticing an issue that wasn't being taken seriously at all. And so when you think about what happened after October 7th, it was right before Thanksgiving. These reports were coming out that were clearly reports of sexual violence, bodies being found naked, all of this stuff. And, shout out to Jake Tapper of CNN because he covered this first, but he was absolutely alone and he was out there saying that. And so I wrote an op-ed, I did a video saying, no matter what side of this you're on, no matter what flag you're flying, marches, we stand against sexual violence. And one of the things I find all of it's horrifying, but interesting in its horror is that Hamas they proudly claim everything else but the sexual violence. Isn't that interesting? They don't deny burning babies. They don't deny, shooting people in their homes. They're proud of that. They don't deny taking hostages, but the sexual violence they deny. And I think the reason they deny is that they're very politically astute. And they know that the progressives marching for them all over the world, even if they don't realize they're marching for them, they are marching in many ways supporting Hamas, a terrorist group. They will turn on that issue. And so that issue became, in my view, very, very important for people understanding what this organization was, who these people are, what they were willing to do. And so I spoke out. And then these very amazing team, Many and Amit had come together. Joey Lowe had funded this documentary, and it was already going to be on this. And they called me and asked me if I would do the interviews, and I did. And I was nervous to go to Israel at that time. And I say that with kind of apologies to all of you who are living there. But I was nervous, to come to Israel. But I'm very glad I did. And I was nervous to go to the South. And when I was on the South, I heard the rockets overhead. And again, for those of you in Israel, you're living this every day. So people like me should show up and support you. And we should do for 3 days what you do all the time. But from the outside, it was a scary thing for me. And I'm glad I did it, because being with people like witnesses who had seen bodies, naked bodies tied to trees, next to those trees, is an experience I'll never forget. And I think more importantly, we brought a film to light that actually was much more widely viewed than we could have hoped, that hopefully made that really seem real to other people as well.
It was unbelievable. I remember the moment it came out on YouTube, free. Your philosophy was right.
Really important. Yeah,
tell us about it.
We were able to put it out for free.
Because
then more people can view it.
Right.
It's more prestigious to put it out on a streamer, but fewer people can see it. And we didn't need to sell the film because Joey Lowe so generously funded the whole thing. And the team doing it was willing to do it. And so we were able to put it out for free. And that's partially why we were able to get the numbers we got.
It's amazing. I have to say on a couple of notes here. One, we're all stunned October 8th, 9th, and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
You were there. And I have to just say, your presence there, Sheryl is on the move, and she's doing something that's really meaningful, important. I think that lifted a lot of people up. I'm serious. And I just thank you for that.
Well, I'm not alone. Everyone on this call is affiliated, and we all stand holding linked arms together.
And that is very powerful. But you took on a topic, obviously, and there's so much work that is continued to be done. But I wanted to share with you, I was in Israel in September with the WCC, Women Championing Change, small group, a think tank. How can we do better? And we got to meet with the First Lady, Michal Herzog, and she was amazing. And we said to her, "What is the thing you would love to focus on? What disturbs you the most?" And Sheryl, this was it. Violence against women that's somehow justified but really ignored is something that she goes, I don't know what we can do, but it needs more. And so screams before silence. It took me a while to understand the silence is what happened from our friends, right? It was a local silence. It was a community silence. It's a national silence. It's a global silence. And the question is there a next step here? Because it's not ending.
Yeah. I mean, the name of the film came from one of the interviews where this amazing woman was hiding in a trailer, which I went with her to that trailer, and where she hid. And she's very tall, and she couldn't have even laid out, and there were like 8 people in there. And what she said is, she knew there was rape happening and sexual violence happening because, and this is very graphic, sorry, but this is our topic. Sometimes you just hear a shot. But if you heard screams, woman screaming for a long time, and then a shot, it was the screams before the silence. And so it was kind of a double entendre meaning of the screams of the victims before silence, but also our film was us screaming before what we perceived of as the silence of the world. And for a lot of us, that was really, and still is, very painful. I mean, I believe I was and I still am, a strong supporter of issues that affect women, with women's organizations and women that linked arm with us on every issue, and then didn't really stand with us on this one.
They didn't. It would drive me crazy. I would see posts that I actually had to engage in and say, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Right? Why isn't anybody calling this out?
Yeah.
I'm obviously, I know that you are, I think all of us are still very, very disturbed by that. And we reflect on that. Although, as I said before, some of our ambassador friends said in America, still nearly 70% of Americans support Israel. And a lot of what that is because they believe in Israel, in the goodness of Israel. But a lot of people just don't understand it. And I don't know about you, but when you're out there and you start to talk about Israel, do you feel people kind of leaning in saying, I want to know more?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing we have to pay attention to, and this is very bad news, is the support of Israel is age driven. That what's really happening is support of Israel is waning for younger people, not just on the right, not just on the left, but on both sides of that aisle. And I think I haven't seen the numbers globally. I've seen the US numbers. I believe that is happening globally too. And
Yes.
that is what is disturbing because the next generation, you know, we just saw a huge voter turnout in New York. The next generation are active and voting. And we need to make sure that we still have that support, not just for us, but for our children and for our grandchildren.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's definitely generational. Let me ask you this. Have you been surprised? A lot of the activism has been achieved by women, whether they be in the news like Noah Tishby, who I'm a huge fan of. Recently, I saw the Australian newswoman, you know, the woman who was on the air, very vocal for Israel. And then I just saw her in Miami.
She is amazing.
Right?
And she's not Jewish, and she is just loud. Yeah, she is amazing. I'm
I
gonna
know she
tell her
gave.
you mentioned her on this call. I've gotten to know her through this. She's amazing.
I
And
mean,
she lost
literally,
her job.
yes, she
I mean,
lost her
I
job.
don't know if she lost her job over this, but she, you know, was on a platform and now is on her own. She's doing great. But I think a
Her,
lot of people suspect this might be part of it, what happened to her.
I think it came out that it had a big part of it. But her messaging is so powerful. And as a non-Jewish ally, which we need more and more and more of, very struck by her. But you know, it's women like her who have big platforms, and then there's the women throughout the world who are taking on projects and filling in and making things happen. Um, Does it surprise you to see women lead in these moments of crisis there? We could talk about women not being at the peace tables, but where it matters, in the grassroots of our communities, women are leading.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think men are leading too. There are a lot of men who are out there who have been great allies. Dan Senor has been incredible. I mentioned Jake Tapper. I mean, there are Jonah Platt. Like there are a lot of loud, great voices. But Montana Tucker, Noah Tishby, they've made a huge difference. Huge.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But we can talk about, it's like, because in a lot of the groups I belong to, one of the things we do say is there's no women at the peace tables, right? Where
Yeah.
is the women's leadership in the formal discussions? And we know historically, whether it be in Serbia or Rwanda, where women really came to the forefront, things changed. And so we're trying
Yeah.
to figure out how we can step up and diversify those voices. Maybe we can help accelerate some of that change we'd like to see.
I think that's right. I mean, look, we've talked for a long time about how women, my whole thing on women has been women leaning in and the world leaning in on women because we need more women in leadership positions. I said publicly once that uh, uh, two countries run by women would never go to war, and I think I was met with a whole lot of like, you know, anger, like Margaret Thatcher, you know, went to war. If half the I'm going to say it again, if half the countries were run by women, or even I think the magic number is you even get to a third, you change the environment. That's what happens on teams. I believe it would happen on countries, and I don't believe they would go to war.
Right. They say that on boards, right? They say if you have 1/3 change on boards, then the board conversations change, which means the way we,
Yeah.
We work changes as well. I think, listen, I just want to let you, a lot of the feedback, a lot of the questions we got, we touched on it earlier, maybe we can go back a little bit, is on anti-Semitism. I think people feel somewhat helpless in the face of it. They want to do something that we can change it. Education seems to come up a lot. Is there anything in your travels, even in your personal interactions or the public platforms that you have embraced, that you can say to people that say, yeah, try this or this or this, that would help us move the needle a little bit in the other direction?
I think the most, look, there's so much to do. There's so much education to do. I think Jews are perceived of, in many cases correctly, as white and privileged, even though we know all Israelis are not white. We know not all Jews are white, but we're perceived as white and privileged and not needing protection. And then when you say per capita hate crimes, there's more against Jews than any other group in the US, people just don't even believe that stat, even though it's clearly just a statistic that's true. And so needing protection is two things. So I have three thoughts. Here are the three things I think matter the most.
Taking notes. Go ahead.
Well, the first thing on anti-Semitism is recognizing that it is incredibly dangerous, but also incredibly small. We know that things tip when people think they're in the majority. That's been true for a long time, but COVID gave us our best experiment, not our best, biggest experiment ever, where there was a whole group of people that wouldn't get vaccinated and then they did. What happened is that they believed other people were getting vaccinated. So while it is very important that we stand against and point out anti-Semitism, counterintuitively, we can create the problem we seek to fix. If we persuade everyone that everyone's anti-Semitic, it makes it much safer for everyone to be anti-Semitic. And so every time we talk about this, we need to say anti-Semitism is super dangerous, but small. Anti-Semitism is super dangerous, but fringe. And that is a mistake I think a lot of people are making. We have to remember that when we say how broad it is, more people join. That's what social science tells us, and that's what experiments tells us. And the good news is it's true. This is not mainstream. It is better to say to people, you are being inadvertently anti-Semitic when you scream river to the sea because you don't know what it is, then, God damn it, you're anti-Semitic. You say, I know you're not anti-Semitic. Here's what you're saying. You don't know what this means. Let me explain what this means because you don't want to be saying it, is a better approach than you're an anti-Semite. I never want to speak to you. I think the second thing is we really need to look into what's going on in the schools. I saw a report this morning where someone did a long analysis. It was sent to me by the head of Chabad at one of the universities. Someone did a long analysis of not just the curriculums, but the books that are assigned. What books are assigned? And they did it on three issues. They did it on I forget the third, but they did it on Israel, Palestine, Zionism, and they did it on abortion, which is something I have very strong views on. What they found is that all the books are assigned on one, the curriculum in our universities, and I'm sure to the extent these things are taught in middle school, high school, it's the same thing. They're so imbalanced. You have the book that says that, Israel's committing systematic genocide assigned everywhere, always, and no books assigned on the other side. And so it goes really deep, into the curriculum. And I think the third thing we need to realize is that this has been happening for a long time. I think a lot of us were asleep. I was asleep. This is systematic. It is funded. It is funded by people who want the lack of stability in the Middle East. And we need to explain that to people, because when you believe that you are supporting something that's grassroots and coming from a human rights point of view, that's one thing. But when you believe you are supporting something that is funded by Iran, that is a very different thing. Funded by Qatar, that is a very different thing. And I think people understanding what they're supporting is so important.
But our young people are having a hard time accepting that, right? They're kind of like, they're dismissing it, which makes it a little more difficult, as Qatar, as we know, has funded. I mean, it's a 25-year strategy. They've invested $30 billion in our schools. When I found that out, to your point, Sheryl, I'm like, oh my God, this is systematic. This is targeted. This is very intentional. And we are, as Jewish people, probably in some ways canaries in the coal mine, because it's bigger than us, right? We are just a little piece of this strategy to create, instability, if you will, in the Western world. And I think when you think, right, and when you think about that, like I try to tell I've spent a great deal of time in Israel of late. And I can't tell you how much I love this country, this people, what it stands for, who they are, what they create, how they think, all of it, right?
Me too.
Right?
Me too.
And they have a very different mindset. And when you have a Western mindset, it's very difficult to understand that there are people that behave like Hamas and have performed the atrocities that you have so documented, right? Like you have,
Yeah.
you just, because as you said, if you're thinking about it as like a nice human rights thing, that's how we think in the West. Let's do something nice for human rights. We want everyone to be this. But this is not what this is. And there are people who are truly, truly evil.
Or true, yes, there are people who are truly evil, absolutely, absolutely. Or have a point of view that we don't and are willing to do anything, including risk lives to do it. That I
Correct.
really believe. I really
I-
believe.
Right. But I do really appreciate when you say, recognizing it's incredibly dangerous, but it is small and fringe. And I think I saw a study like you did recently, asking people, what are the issues? I think it was students. What are the most important issues? And I think, the issue of anti-Semitism, or Israel actually, or Hamas was like number 15, which is like the bottom of their list.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But so therefore, going back to your number 3, there is systematic and funded people giving people money to make sure that it stays
That's
visible.
right. Right.
Yeah. It's challenging. It's challenging for us all, but gathering today, I think, gives us a sense of harmony and togetherness. Your voice is really valued. So let's talk a little bit more about what you're doing today, if we can. I know that because Maccabi, as you know, is a global organization, it is involved in sport, back from the 1920s, where sport is really seen as a healing way, building teamwork, and we were not allowed to belong to other sports clubs. That's kind of the genesis of all of this. I know you've always been involved in sports, and you are now a current investor in a women's sports team.
Yeah, so my husband and I invested in BayFC, which is the National Women's Soccer League team expansion team that came to the Bay Area. I'm a huge believer in women's sports. The data is super clear. I was very unathletic as a child. I've gotten a little bit, I mean, I'm still terribly unathletic. You throw a ball at me, I duck, but I'm more active. But I was terribly unathletic as a child, but I'm kind of an exception that 94% of the women who get to the C-suite played sports. And sports for girls is protective. They're better leaders. They're more self-confident, lower depression rates, lower rates of eating disorders, all the things, we care about, all these really important things. And so I really believe this is something that we need to invest in. I also believe that sports create a global community. The experience the Israeli teams have at the Olympics matters.
Yes.
Now we have to worry about that. So having these games where Jews around the world can come together and compete and meet each other, and we can celebrate, excellence in our community. I think what you all are doing is more important than ever, which is why I wanted to join you today.
We really appreciate that, because I have to tell you that being a young Jewish female athlete growing up, that didn't really go over so big in my house, right?
Well, I think that's changed.
Totally changed. I am doing happy dances every single day. And I know Don Kent's on this call, and he just got elected as our new president for Maccabi USA. And I can tell you that the switch to sport and people's appreciation of sport, because of what you said, is really formidable. The Jewish athletes are growing we have lots of organizations, lots of collegiate athletes. Obviously, it's always like you'll be the dentist or the owner of the team before you'll be playing on the team, right? That was the old joke. But because sports is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And lots of young women, and building that, what you said also, that strength and inner confidence that comes from sports. You don't have to be an elite athlete to do that. You just have to play, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you could have played a sport growing up, and because you thought you were good enough, what would you have chosen?
Oh, I don't know. I have a daughter who plays soccer. I have a daughter who plays lacrosse. I don't know.
You don't know?
What did you play?
I was hoping you were going to say basketball, of course.
Maybe. What did you play? Is that what you played?
Yes, I played basketball. Yeah, I played basketball all through college. I played professionally, and then got the privilege to run the WNBA, and now we're bringing back a new women's professional basketball league. So hopefully,
I know that.
working beside Jessica Berman. We talk a lot. I know that you know her. She's a big fan
Yeah.
of yours because of her leadership at the NWSL. So many good things are really happening in terms of the ability for more women to play, earn a great living, to be part of communities. All those things that sports brings is really, valuable. You think your daughters would ever look to the next level of competition?
I think they would say they're not quite good enough. One of them is going to play in college, so we're getting there, but I think they would love that. But I do think the opportunity, from a business point of view, the opportunities for women in sports, I think, are highly underinvested in, and we will see great things happening. I think we're already seeing great things happening. I think the NBA's support of the WNBA is also something people should really notice and appreciate. They're the only major league, and everyone, there's a lot to be, obviously, people are upset about certain things, but at its core, you have the NBA, and I'm a huge Adam Silver fan, starting and supporting the WNBA and deep, and the financial commitment is deep. The brand commitment is deep. I mean, we would be in a great place if like the NFL was doing that too, right? And the National Baseball League and the Hockey League, and like it's pretty amazing what's happened there. Imperfect issues around, but boy, is that well done comparatively to anything else that you've seen any other major league do.
Yeah, and Adam's all in. I worked with Adam for a long time, and listen, he's a brilliant guy. But if it came to the WNBA, he's all in, and I think you're right about that. So that is fantastic. And I also noticed that your Lean In Girls program is also wrapped into the WNBA. And tell us a little bit about that.
So the Heart of Lean In started with a book I published in 2013. So now, I don't know, 12 years ago. And then got to, my foundation where we run Lean In Circles, which are really there. We have 140,000 that have been started. There are so many women all over the world, and men, but mostly women, who join together in these circles to support each other. We make it all for free on our website if anyone wants to check it out. And we do it within organizations and without. But it's been very, very powerful. But what we realized is that while these women are thriving and reaching for promotions, we needed to start younger. When I wrote the book, 5% of the top CEO jobs were earned by women. And now it's 10%, which is, you could say double, but not nearly enough progress, and getting us nowhere close to where we should be. And so we feel like we need to start younger and talk to girls about leadership. So Lean In Girls is a program we are working with the NBA to partner, that we run in schools. And again, anyone can do it. All the materials up for free. And we try to help women and girls lean in.
I love that. I just want to say I've done Lean In Circles with Andrea Mail in my hometown, and everybody loved it. So that was great. Let me ask you this, as we're kind of wrapping up, any advice or guidance for this very formidable audience? By the way, I'm getting texts. I don't know if you are. They're saying they're loving it and appreciating it. But I think people are looking for a way to positively and as powerfully as they can move forward. Not to put you in, the seat of like all-knowing Yoda here, but Sheryl, if you have some advice for us, would be great.
I think we need to be proud. I did an interview with Barry Weiss on the Free Press, and she said something really important. She said, I think Judaism needs to be more Sinai than Auschwitz. I think it's really important that we continue to show up the world as proud Jews, as proud Zionists, but also talking about not just what's unfair about how we're treated, but let's talk about the state of Israel. If you have progressive values and you're marching in the street, do you know where the only place in the Middle East that even comes close to having those values? Israel. Israel, where gay people have rights, where women have rights, where women have choice. All of the things that make us proud, where the Maccabee Games come together and everyone can participate. I think it's really important that we continue to show up. I never really wore a Jewish star before, but now I wear one every day. Every day.
Yeah,
because
that's
I want to
awesome.
be proud, and my daughters do too. It was their idea.
Yeah, isn't that, and that just makes you really even prouder, right? When our kids really step up. I know, my son does that sometimes. His Jewish star, it looks like he's a rapper. I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
okay, Zach,
my son. Yeah, I have two
right?
sons. They have rapper ones too, but they're big and they're proud, and I'm proud of them.
And we love that. And if I could just also add to that in terms of being proud, Dan Signeur's book, The Genius of Israel, is astoundingly powerful. And he talks about why this country that we all love is so amazing. And it's the way they think and the way they put their autistic kids in the army and taking advantage of their skill set and their belief in family. And it's a reminder to us that there are other ways to live and think, and we're part of this tribe. I would highly recommend that as well. Leaving on this theme of proud Jews and proud Zionists, I just want to let you know that Jordan Schlachter, your whatever mate at Harvard, is on and wanted to say hello. Couldn't resist.
Hi, Sheryl. Thank you all. Thank you for what you do, Donna. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you to this organization. I think what you do is really important, and I am honored and privileged to be part of your community. Thank you for having me today.
And we are proud, and we are proud. Thank you so much, Sheryl, for your time. We really appreciate you. And everybody who's worked on making this happen, thank you. And for all of us who spent the time with us today, we appreciate the village. Everyone, God
Thank you
bless.
all.
Bye-bye.
Actually, Donna, I'm just going to say a couple words before people jump off. First of all,
Okay.
thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. We had high expectations and you didn't disappoint. So thank you so much. We will be putting, I think Philip is going to be putting some links in the chat so that if anyone has any interest in learning more about the Women's Forum, there will be links to that. Anyone who's interested in participating in the next Maccabiyah from various delegations, there are links to get involved that way, either as an athlete or as a volunteer. And I just wanted to also thank the Maccabi Women's Forum for putting this on, to Alma and to Orly and Alana and everyone behind the scenes. And I also got a note that Lithuania was also on the call. So shout out to the women from Lithuania who joined us this morning. Thank you again, Sheryl. We are so honored to have you as part of the Maccabi family. Once you're in, you're in. That's the way it goes. And Donna, of course, to you. Thank you so much.